Hey all, we've got 9 really fun, creative-minded, experiential trainers on with us, and we're all going to each, in under 1 minute, going to share one of our best tips for virtual engagement, virtual meetings, in reverse alphabetical order, starting with Mr. Willwise.
So one activity that we made virtual was called The Rock. And the way that you can do this virtually is type in the chat box. You could choose someone. So I could type in and send a private message to Phil. And I say, Phil, you're the rock. And then everybody else looks on the screen and looks at the nonverbals to figure out who got the rock. And then once we discovered who got that private message, then we start calling them out, and then we all have a good laugh. I'm now switching it to Ryan.
Yeah, it's me. I think one of the things in terms of whatever it is that you're doing is not to overcomplicate it and keep it as simple as possible. I have a huge tendency to want to make things have some sort of woo value to it. And then in the end, somebody says, well, couldn't you just do it this way? And it's so much simpler. So I appreciate that thinking. And I would say, unless it's absolutely necessary to go all techie on stuff, keep it simple. I don't know who's next.
Phil?
I think it's Nate. No.
Oh, Nate.
Phil.
Phil.
Oh, Phil.
I think the advice I'd give is practice with a peer group prior to doing it with others so that you can get rid of all of the things that don't work well. And I think that it goes with this as possibly is having someone help you in the process, be with you and deal with all the technical stuff so that you can focus on the interaction with the people you're working with, because that's the part that gets you all flustered, because I tried to share something, it didn't share properly. So try to practice it and maybe have someone help you out. Nate?
I'm next. Keep it human and keep it real. So I'm with Ryan we have this tech as a platform to connect, which I'm grateful for, and get out of the box, go for virtual walk and talks. That's something at Operation Explorer that we did that has had a lot of success, and maybe connecting that to an app to track progress, to take pictures about where people are at, but to just have that phone conversation and ideas spark and movement happens.
I think I'm next. For me, we keep attaching the word online and virtual to these meetings. It's still a meeting, and we still have the same issues of people turning up late or just not being engaged. And so for me, I take that technology of the unofficial start, finding ways that right from the beginning, even before the top of the hour, having something to engage people productively, and that's the whole strategy. And there's a number of little activities that you can use. It can be a puzzle, it can just be a question. I know the webinar we hosted with Chad last week, it was say, hey, tell us where you are in the world and what would you describe as paradise? And it was wonderful watching people's answers to that. They were engaged from the moment they arrived, and you didn't have to tell people what was going on. It was on the screen. Unofficial start.
Nice.
Lisa?
This is Lisa.
Yes, Amy, I see you have to go. Can I invite you to go ahead of me so we don't miss your reflection?
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, I got another meeting in a few minutes. So an activity that I thought I would share, we kind of talked about, was kind of using this space, but going analog. And one of the things in person I might do is use some image cards and say, find an image that represents your definition of leadership or something like that. But instead just say, get some paper and a marker and draw a quick sketch of your definition of leadership or what you think of as creativity or anything you want, and then have people draw and then just hold it all up into the screen. And you will get very different images if you give them 1 minute or if you give them 15 seconds. Both are really good, could be interesting, but something to play with. Good way to get conversation going.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. If you need to race off, it's been awesome to have you here.
Been great to be here.
Thanks. Okay, my piece is about self-care as facilitators. I ran a trial session with my colleagues at High Five a couple weeks ago based on the Heath Brothers Power of Moments book. And I hit end meeting and I was like completely disoriented. I was like, all the things that I rely on for transition, like what's the vibe in the room and what's the chatter as I'm leaving, I just had not considered all of that. So I'm not sure, start the meeting early, ask a couple folks to stick around, but just that general awareness of like, I used the word grief that day with a few colleagues, and that was not like, that was an intentional word. It was like, whoa, I'm just sitting here. So I think it's just awareness of what's your before and after going to be as a trainer or facilitator.
Jenny.
Yeah. So one of the things I found in facilitating a lot of work online recently is just how critically important engagement is, because it's the thing that if we don't have engagement, we can't create change, we can't create connection, we can't do anything if we don't have people's attention. So how do we set them up for success with that? Like asking them to turn up apps and notifications, email, and all the things that might be coming into your sphere. And then also, how do we engage people? And one of the best ways I found to engage people is to help people connect. So how do you get them to connect early? How do you get them to connect often? Having little breakouts, moments, having the chat going. Normally we would subdue side talk, but in these environments, we want to really, I think, amp it up in the chat and have that going as a way to keep people engaged, connecting, supporting, and one another and answering each other's thoughts and ideas. So I would always just go for engage, whether that's through the chat, through the polls, through a connection exercise or an icebreaker, some movement. How do you keep people focused, alert, and aware and ready for what's coming next?
Awesome. And to wrap us up, my tip is invite people out of their bubble. There's somehow this little camera on the screen traps us in this little 3-foot radius. And so the invitation is to get people to move. So for example, everybody right now, if we all slide to the left and slide to the right and slide to the left. Ryan, you can lean, you're looking good. We can lean to the right, lean to the left. Right? There's something about, or put your hands up and give the person next to you a high five. Lovely. So just doing something that physically breaks out of the space of like caveman hunched over by a Zoom call is immensely re-energizing. And so if you're hosting a 60-minute meeting and you're not breaking it up with at least 1 or 2 times where you invite somebody to move out of their box, I think you're doing a disservice to people's brains, because our brains think better when blood is flowing. Hope you enjoyed these 9 tips. I'm sure you're missing Amy right now, and feel free to share. Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you, Chad.
Okay.
That was awesome.
Sorry, Brian.
It was fun.
That was awesome. Sorry, I just wanted to wow.
Yeah.
A lot of good tips.
Yeah, we should.
Whoa, that's good.
Forget 50-minute webinars. We just need 9-minute webinars.
Everything else was a warm up to that. Real long warm up.
It's a long unofficial start. Yeah.
But I liked it. It was good. Yeah.
Yeah.